Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Yep, my name is Alan Neal and I'm from Accountancy Manager. And today we will be running through the tool called Accountancy Manager. I'll try and do that within an hour. What is Accountancy Manager? It's a practice management and content management, sales management tool, if you like. It's a CRM as well as a practice management tool. And it's been developed by a firm of accountants for accountants. So the firm, when they created it, they couldn't find a tool that would allow them to manage their practice in the most efficient way. And that's about, trying to reduce the administration burden and so on. So having looked around the marketplace, trying to find tools, they decided to create their own. And that's really where Accountancy Manager came from. It was launched in May of last year at Accountancy in London. And since then, it's gone from strength to strength. I think now probably over 1,600, maybe 1,700 firms using the tool. So it's gone very well. Last year, it won the Practice Management Awards, Accounting Web. This year, it's shortlisted for 2 of those awards. I think that's within the next couple of weeks. So it's gone very well, and I think it's really down to the fact that it is a firm of accountants that's behind the tool, and therefore there's nothing really wasted. There's no sort of like macho development for the sake of it. Everything is there to try and make an accountant's life that little bit easier, and that's really what it's all about. So yep, that's enough preamble. So I'll basically go through the tool now. If it's all right with you, I'm sure it will be. I'll turn off the webcam. I don't like looking at myself in the morning, so if that's all right. Okay, so that's gone. And then if I share my screen with you, I am hopeful that everybody can now see this. I'm sure that Shane could jump on and tell me if it's not seeable. So
it's all good.
Great. So let's go through the tool. So for most people, when they start the journey, they will start with the free trial, the 30-day free trial. So let's start there. I've actually created a user account, and as usual, I always struggle to remember these things, but let's just see. Hopefully that is the one. So I put in an email address and I create a password and confirm the password. Actually, that is wrong because I've already done that, so just bear with me. I created it already, so I don't need to recreate it. And then I'll sign in. Fingers crossed I've got the right one. Okay, it looks like it. So this is the default sort of look and feel. In my client list, I have no clients. Well, that's good because they're just starting. And in terms of the staff members, at the moment, I've got 2 members of staff in. Now, you can quite easily use this with 1 member of staff. You could have 100 members of staff. But I've just put 2 in, the only reason being to show you how I can move tasks around. But it's quite easy just to use it with 1 member of staff. So there's a couple of, if you like, things that you'll do as a one-off. The first one, we would synchronize the email. Now, the idea of this is that very much like when you buy a new mobile phone, you can synchronize the email between your phone and your email, be that Outlook or Gmail. It's exactly the same with Accountancy Manager. So we would put in all of the criteria that you'd expect within there. If this is from Outlook, for example, these settings would be in your account settings. If it's Gmail, you could Google the Gmail settings and put those in. This effectively allows Accountancy Manager to send emails out as if they're going from you. So there are lots of automated emails within here, and they will go out that way. And we've also got the concept of forwarding. So if a client sends you an email, if that email address is matched within Accountancy Manager, a copy of that email will then get forwarded into Accountancy Manager as well. Okay, so first of all, we synchronize the email. The next thing we need to do then is import some clients. Now, the easiest way to import multiple clients, and so I'm saying maybe 20, 30 plus clients, I would normally use the import client window. You can do them manually, very, very easy to do that. But if you've got lots, just to make copying and pasting as easy as possible, I would use the import client window. So from here, I would download the template, and good old Blue Peter fashion, here's one I prepared earlier. And me being lazy, I've only put in 3 client names here. So I've made up these client names. These are the 2 users in the system, either James and John. So I can see James has got 2 clients, John's got 1. And the idea is, you'd fill all of this in based on the services, etc., you're providing for the client. I've put in 3 contact names, and then I've marked 2 of those clients as self-assessment directors as well. Okay, and then obviously, again, you continue to fill in all of the information. If you're providing VAT, if you're providing PAYE, you would fill all of that information in. So obviously, we'd fill that in, close it down, and then it's a case of drag and drop. So this is it here, I'll drag it in, import the clients, and then I've got the clients now in the system. Okay, so if I just sort them this way, so we've got the 3 companies, and then we've got the 2 self-assessment directors. I can see here how ABC Limited is linked to Henry Jones, and then Henry Jones as the self-assessment director is linked to ABC. So you get a feel for the standard sort of look and feel here. So you have the client, any links, the client type, and then again, based on the Excel and whatever we ticked in, we've then got the services we're providing, and then we've got the manager over here as well. Okay, so, but that's a one-off again. So once you've done that with your existing client base, they're in, and then you can basically forget it. What we'll now talk about is more of the day-to-day. So what we'll look at now is sort of adding a prospect to the system. We'll go through the proposal. We'll go through then the onboarding of that client, the automated onboarding. We'll look at how then the client interacts through the client portal and so on. So this is more of your day-to-day. So to add a client, I'm in the client section, so I could go from here, new client, or if I'm somewhere else, I could hover over client and pick up new client from here. So we'll pick up new client. Okay, now if it is a limited company, I can speed the process up by using the autofill from Companies House. So here I would type in the name of the client, or partial name of the client, and then I can search the Companies House database. So the Companies House database brings back a number of options. I'll go for the one I assume it is. This is SHQ Limited. Again, I could just double check on the beta site to make sure it is what I think it is. Assuming that's the case, I could then select the company. Okay, it would then list all of the directors here. Now, there is only one in this case, so I'll use Alex here as the main contact. So we've pulled through the company name, but also if I go through a number of these drop downs, in the accounts and returns section here, it's pulled through the year-end information automatically, the CT600 due date. These things have been pulled through. If I open up one of the other drop downs, the company details here, it's pulled through the company number, the incorporation date, the registered address. If I come down to the confirmation statement drop down, we've got the confirmation statement dates and due dates. And in the main contact here, we've got the name of the person. So all of that's been pulled through automatically. So again, saves a considerable amount of time. Now, what I need to do is make sure I put an email address in here, because I want to be able to generate these emails to this client. So that's the email address. And if I've got a mobile number, even better, because I can send text messages through the system as well. Just trying to use my own mobile number if I can remember it. I think that's right. Now, there's obviously lots of drop downs here. As accountants, it'll all make sense to you. We'll cover a couple more as we go. But what I want to do now is go through the services. Now, this is at the moment a proposal. So here are the list of services out of the box. Now, if there are more services that you provide that aren't in this list, that's absolutely fine. We can add them in settings, and we'll talk about those near the end. And if there are services in the list that you don't provide, again, you can turn them off through the same settings. But this is, if you like, the out of the box version. Then you would tick whatever the services are that you're looking to provide here. So let's say we're looking at these 4 services. And then in terms of pricing, we can price in different ways. Now, if I put this in, this is like an annual fixed fee type price. So £300 for the year for VAT services, for example. But a lot of companies may do it this way. Others will do it on a a rolling monthly direct debit approach. Others will just do a blanket annual approach. Others will do everything on a chargeable basis. So the system will accommodate different aspects of that. If I want to do it on just a monthly charge, for example, now I could just add these up and divide that by 12. So if I just tick monthly charge here, that's what that will do. But if I just wanted to say, leave everything above blank and then just put in a charge, so that's absolutely fine as well. So there are different ways that we can do this pricing. So a couple of other things with the services then. As I've ticked these services, I've got these other couple of boxes opened up. And let's just open up the staff task box here. So these tasks here all relate to the services that I've ticked. So if I just tick here P11D, you'll see at the bottom on the left, there's that new service that opens up. So the tasks are very dependent upon whatever we've ticked. And the idea here is that I can start to allocate those tasks out. So maybe John's the guy that does the CT600 filing and the VAT preparation, for example. So when we come to the task list, those tasks will already be allocated to John. The other thing just to remember here is for any service that I have that I tick, I need to make sure I have a date against that service, because it's the date that's going to generate the task. Now for accounts, for CT600, for confirmation statement, those dates we've already pulled through, as we've already seen, but I haven't got anything in yet for VAT. So I'll scroll down to the VAT section and open that one up. And I need to put a date in here for the period end date. So let's say the last period end date was the 31st of July in this case. That puts us a next return date in then of the 7th of September. So a couple of days time. Whilst we're in here, we'll just mark up, and let's say in terms of a scheme for this client, this is a standard scheme type client. And that's all we'll do for now. The other thing I'll just put in here just to mention is the difference between a prospect and a client is pretty much whether this is ticked or not. If it's ticked, it's confirming they signed your terms. If it's not ticked, they haven't signed your terms. So I'm going to add this client to our system, but they haven't signed any terms. So if I go back to my client list, bearing in mind this is SHQ, I haven't got SHQ here because they haven't signed any terms, but I have got SHQ as a prospect. So I've got them as a prospect as opposed to a client. But as I say, the only difference between the two is the fact that I haven't ticked that button. So everything I can do to a client in terms of generating, mass emails, mass text messages, creating tasks, I can do all of that to my prospects. So this is much about prospect management as it is about practice management. So I could have lists of prospects that I could do focus campaigns against in exactly the same way. Let's just go back into SHQ then. Now, because they are on our system, then we have one more option that's available to us. And that option now is the proposal. Now, if I just click on that, this is an example of one of the many automated emails that the system will generate for us. And this is part of the concept of Accountancy Manager. It's all about trying to reduce the time and effort that you have to spend on administration. We want you to spend more time fee earning and less time doing the boring chasing stuff. So this is an automated email. All of the automated emails that we have are all sitting in the settings section under templates. So I can change the template to suit my firm. This is just how it is out of the box, ready to go. But you could change this very simply, and we'll look at changing those templates later on. So it's already pulling in the name of the person and the email address and the company, and then it's putting the name of that person directly into the email. So, dear Alexander, we will be happy to act as your agent, and then it's dynamically populating that email with the services that we've ticked and any sort of pricing that we've put in. So again, it's just saving us that piece of work. And at the bottom part of the email, it's about how to become a client. So we want 2 forms of ID, etc., etc. Again, you can change the wording of this to suit your firm, This is just the out-of-the-box version. And then this link here is the key bit, really, because this is the link to the online registration process. So what we want to do is get the client to click on this link. So if I'm your client, you sent me this email, I'll open it in a different window as if I've clicked on the link. And this is the journey then that your client takes as far as onboarding is concerned. So they first of all go to the terms and conditions page. Again, this is another one of those templates. So it's, it literally is a case of copying yours and pasting that into the template. Then your terms and conditions appear here. So very straightforward. The client then would, well, in theory, he would read these. So yeah, he'd scroll down, he'd read them. Assuming he agrees with it, he would then sign his name. So name signed, continue, and then he's taken to the bespoke letter of engagement page. So again, for SHQ Limited, within the letter of engagement is named Dear Alexander, again referencing the company, and again dynamically populating that letter of engagement with the services. So it's a dynamic letter of engagement, and it will change according to what we've ticked. Now, this section of the letter of engagement is the start section. So all of this will appear in every letter of engagement. So from the top down to here, oops, my fat fingers, down to here. So all of that above is in the start section. That appears on every letter of engagement. The next sections, again, are all dynamic. So this wording all around the account is only showing in this letter of engagement because we've ticked accounts. Likewise, as is corporation tax. Likewise, as is the VAT. Now, if I tick bookkeeping, if I tick P11D, again, that wording would be in here. This, again, is another template. So, whatever the wording is for VAT that suits you, that can go into the letter of engagement. The bottom section is another permanent section. This is the data protection GDPR wording. So, this is up to date as far as all of the compliance wording is concerned. As far as we're concerned, we've had it audited by our lawyers and so on as far as GDPR compliance. So again, you can use this, maybe change all of the dynamic elements, but just keep this, or just change the whole lot. It's whatever suits you. So the client then would sign that, whatever version this would be. And then he is now on board as a full bona fide client of yours. He signed your terms, he signed your letter of engagement. The next thing we invite the client to do is to then create his own page on the client portal. So this is his email address. So he would create a password and confirm that password. And then he's onto the portal. But the first thing he does before he gets there as a one-off, and this is like a self-service part, is help us fill in some of those blanks. So I've got his name, I've got his email, I've got a mobile, but at the moment that's all I've got. So let's say his preferred name is Alex rather than Alexander, wherever he's from 10 Smith Street. So anything that he fills in here, that will just update on our system. If he chooses to do nothing, that's absolutely fine. And you can turn this step off as well. But it's a useful thing to be able to do. So the client now is on the client portal. This here is another template. So it's just whatever welcome text you want it to be. Also note that the preferred name is already updated. So everything now refers to Alex rather than Alexander. As it's your client portal, your logo could be here. So when your clients log on, they see your logo. And then when the client does log on, he could then update his details, change his mobile number. He's got his terms, etc. to hand here. He's got his deadlines here. So these will be the deadlines based on the services that you're providing for him. And then he's also got the document portal. So this is a secure document exchange. So if we've asked the client to send us some information, he can click on the portal. And again, if I just reduce this down slightly, very much like I did with the Excel. So let's say this next document here, this is a list of receipts that you've asked for. So he would upload those. He could put some notes on for us, save a copy on the system, and that's it. He's sent us that document now. This is his version of it for reference. And I'm going to come off the client portal now and go back onto our system. So this is the email that we saw before. If I close that email down, if I go to my clients now, I will see SHQ on there because they are now on as a full bona fide client. Okay, so they've gone through that onboarding. I've got no client links at the moment because I didn't have Alex as a self-assessment client. I could have done that within there. And then again, depending on whatever I ticked in those services, those are the services that we're providing. Okay, so hopefully everybody is okay with that. I don't think there's been any questions so far, as far as I'm aware. Oh, there is one coming.
There hasn't been a question. Yeah, I was just going to.
Yeah. Okay, so the question is, well, you probably can all see it anyway. Can the clients be downloaded from a current practice management system? No, not simply. I mean, you can obviously download or export from whatever system that you have, but we can't then automatically import into Accountancy Manager. So the most efficient way to do it is to import it into Excel. But even that, I don't think you would be able to do a straight export from Iris into Excel in the right format. Unfortunately, there aren't that many softwares that work that way. Everybody seems to have a different way of doing things. Excel is probably the most familiar for most people. So, fortunately, it's getting it into a CSV and then copying and pasting and so on from there. Another question. So, can monthly direct debits be changed to 10 monthly installments in line with AVN's time pricing software? Yes, I mean, it really depends how you want to use Accountancy Manager, because you don't have to use Accountancy Manager for invoicing. I mean, you can, and I will show you that. But I would say at least 50% of the firms that are clients of ours do not use the invoicing. They're already using a Xero or a QuickBooks or a Sage, or continue to invoice in a different system. Again, that's absolutely fine. We're not trying to sort of take over the world here. We'll offer you up the functionality to make your life easy. But if you've got a way of doing that already, then we're quite happy for you to continue that. You don't have to use every module. They're not dependent on each other. If you're already running a sort of 10 times monthly direct debit through something else, then that's absolutely fine to continue. Another question coming through: can I enter a fixed amount on unincorporated clients that will then update all of the clients with the same fee? Okay, you'll have to forgive me. I'm not an accountant, so I'm not 100% sure what that question means. What I will say, though, at the end of this session, I'm sure there will be questions that I can't answer. There normally is, I'm afraid. But we'll summarize all of the questions. I'll get all of the answers answered by the guys in the office who actually know what they're talking about, and we'll get those back out to you. So if I can't answer it, we will provide you with the answer as a follow-up. Okay, I think there are some also questions coming through on the Q&A, so let me just check those. So can the proposal system do menu pricing? Well, yes, it can. Yeah, so I can set within the settings here. Let me just move the Q&A box out of the way if I can. So just bear with me. Yeah, so within the settings, I've got too many things open. I have got where it is fee structures. So that would allow me to create different packages of fees. So a gold pack, a silver pack. And I could price every service then on there, say a gold service. So I could give a premium price against every service. And if I selected gold, it would put a price in against every service in the client folder. But then again, I just tick on the menu basis which ones are appropriate. So yes, the answer is you can do that. Another question, sometimes a client will say, what portal? Or I can't find a link. Is there a way? Okay, so you can create the links to put on emails. So for example, if I send the client a document through the portal, it will automatically send an email saying, dear client, we've just sent you a document. Please click on the link to upload. You can also have that link to the portal embedded on your website. And a lot of firms like to do that. So they encourage their clients to go to their website, on their homepage, for example, they've got a link to the portal there. So you can do that. And Okay, yeah, I think that's it for now. And right, so let's carry on. I'll try and keep to the hour, but I think with the questions that might be a challenge. Let's talk about then how we get these existing clients onto the portal. So SHQ is on the portal. These are existing clients of ours that we've bought through Excel. By default, they're not on the portal because they haven't been invited. So one way to do that, and there are different ways. First of all, how do I know who's on the portal? Well, I can go to this one, portal registration. This will give me a list of those that are registered, SHQ, and those that are not yet registered. Okay. Now, to send an email to those that are not registered, this is one way to do it. Use the GDPR letter of engagement re-sign, and this will send an email out to everybody. Now, this is an example of a mass email. Now, okay, we're looking at 4 people. So it's hardly a mass, but it could be 400, it could be 4,000. But every time we do this, they're all individual emails. It's not one email to 4,000 people, it's 4,000 separate emails, all individually addressed. Now, this is another template. So again, you could change this, but just as the example. So, dear Henry, with GDPR now in place, we require you to read and sign the new letter of engagement. And you then say something like, to comply with GDPR, we've now put in place a secure document portal. So this example here, if the client clicks on this, this then allows, I'll just do it slightly, yeah, this would allow the client, this isn't the same example, but this would allow the client to go and re-sign an updated letter of engagement. And the updated terms and conditions. So this option is not only inviting them onto the portal, but getting them to re-sign updated letter of engagement in line with GDPR. Because whilst GDPR has sort of come and gone, certainly the majority of the firms that I speak to when I'm doing these demos still haven't got round to reissuing updated letters of engagement. And this will therefore kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So it will send out the invitation to allow them to re-sign updated letter of engagement and register on the portal. So that's the idea. So that's one example of a mass email. Another example, I could just do a mass email from here. So this is my client list, but bear in mind, this could be my prospect list. It could be 100 prospects, it could be 1,000 prospects. If I wanted to do an email to all of those, I would just click on email all, and that's pretty much ready to go. Then I type in the content. Now, in terms of who that email is going to, it's going to go to everybody on whatever the list was in front of me. So at the moment, it's going to everybody, 6, okay? Now, this also is a template. Now, it doesn't look much really, but it's pulling in the name of the person again. So where we've got these percentages and then the statement, first name, that's pulling in that name from the client field. And then this one is your signature. So the sign off here. So that might be your name, or best regards, your name, your telephone number, your email, and so on. Whatever that is for you, and then you put that in settings, that pulls that in. Okay, so that's the idea. Just one other thing, just while we're in here, this thing here, canned messages. The idea of that is it will, again, save you time. So if you find yourself using the same paragraph time and time again, or the same sentence, you can create those pieces of text as templates, but canned message templates. And then you can select them from the drop down within an email, and then that text will appear. So it's basically, again, saving you lots of time. Okay, so that's the, sending an email out to everybody, all my clients or all of my prospects, whatever it would be. If though I wanted to focus that down, so I'm only interested in sending an email, say to my VAT prospects or clients, I could then just click on whatever the service is in question. It's filtered down to only those 3 now. And again, if I went to email all, you can see it's only those 3 companies that are now ticked. So I can start to then focus that right down. I could take it further by adding in additional columns as well. So these columns here are all of those entries in that client folder. Now, we talked about VAT, and that was right down at the bottom. So if I go right down, and let's use the example here. So this is all of the VAT section. let's say I want to send an email only to my flat rate clients. So I can tick flat rate, yes or no. And then I've got an extra column now added, 2 of the 3 is flat rate. If I click on the yeses, it's filtered down to only the 2. So hopefully you can see how you can then start to tailor these emails to clients or to prospects in that way. Right, a couple of more questions coming through. Can you add additional attachments, i.e. newsletters? You can to certain emails, yes. Certain emails you can't, certain emails you can. And there will be more attachments added as we go. So in general, the answer to that one is yes. Next question, does it add in the overall email signature? Yes, that was that sign-off part. I was probably talking about that after you sent that through. Yeah, the sign-off will that's exactly what that is. Okay, so let's close the questions and carry on. Now, what we're going to go to now is the task list. So I'm conscious of time, so I need to keep things moving. This is the typical task list. Now, I am at the moment looking at the tasks for James because I'm logged on as James, but I could look at the tasks for different people, and we will do that in a minute. So these are James's tasks. Now, the vast majority of the tasks that you will have in your list are going to be generated by the system. So you've got the client, you've got the service, be it VAT, confirmation statement, accounts, and then you've got that date, the due date. So if I haven't got the date, the task won't generate. So the date is a key factor here. Now, one way to make sure we've got a date against every service is hover over tasks and go to missing deadlines. This would then give me a list of any clients, which I've got here, that I've ticked a service but haven't put a date in. So potentially here, I've got 5 tasks that are not going to generate, until I go in and put a date against, John's self-assessment return date. Same with Henry and so on. So I need to make sure this stays clear. So it's worth checking on a fairly regular basis. If it's clear, it means that the task list will generate. So we have the client, we have the service and the related due date, and then against the due date, we'll have some sort of deadline. So we talked about the VAT submission here for SHQ. I put the due date, the last return date, the 31st of July. Therefore, the deadline then is the 7th of the 9th. As you can see, these are color coded. The black deadlines mean they're overdue, as you can see. If the color was red, that means it's due today, within 24 hours. This orange means it's due within the next 10 days. If it was yellow, it would be due within 30 days. If it's white, it's beyond 30 days. So you'll have different colors down here, and that's really going to be driving your day-to-day activity. Okay, so that's typically how it looks. Now, in terms of what I can do in terms of viewing this, if I've got permissions and if I've got other members of staff, I can then look at, say, John's tasks. So these are John's tasks. If you haven't got permission, you wouldn't see this. You just see your own. If I've got permission, again, I could view everybody. Now, okay, I've only got 2 staff members, but I could have 200 staff members, and so I could see all of the tasks. I could filter by progress. Now, if I just click on that, it says none. That's because I have no progress at all in the progress box. So let's just add something in here as an example. Let's just put some progress at the reviewed stage. So we can see for this particular task, both the preparation and submission, because they're linked together, we are at the reviewed stage for that particular task. So then if I was saying, okay, show me all of those tasks that are at that particular moment, that state. So if I've got hundreds of tasks, obviously this comes into its own really. As I sort of change these filters, they're building up here, so I can again take them off as I wish. So take the reviewed state off. I could look at the tasks by the service type. So show me only VAT related tasks. So these are 6 tasks relating to VAT. Again, I could take that off. I can view by deadline, by start dates alphabetically, or I could just type in a client. So now I'm just looking at the task for SHQ. So different ways we can do that. Let's now stay on the SHQ VAT task. We'll talk now about automation. So again, as part of the efficiency of the tool is that the system can generate lots of emails, and we've seen a couple of examples of that. But the next email is an automated email chasing a client for outstanding records. So if I switched on the automation, and I'm in control of this, but if I switched it all on, what would happen on this end date, the 31st of July, the system will generate an email to this client. The default out of the box version, which again you can change, but it would say, "Dear Alex," so it would pull in his name. "Your VAT period expired on the 31st of July," so it pull in the date. "Please send me the information within the next 21 days. So that would be an email that's generated by the system. The system then would update the progress automatically, so you will know that email has been generated. Okay, so the email is generated by the system on your behalf. If it's your client, it will basically go out with your name on and your sign off and everything else. The email itself will actually go up here into the queue, and we've already seen this queue. It will sit in this queue for 24 hours. So it's generated the day before it's meant to go out, and it goes out the day it's scheduled. But it'll be at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's generated. It goes out as scheduled 4 o'clock the next afternoon. If you do nothing with it, it will just go. But the idea of the queue is it's because these are generated emails from the system, they're effectively blind to you. So if they sit in the queue for 24 hours, it's going to give you a chance to maybe edit the email, to delete it altogether. Maybe you've spoken to the client. So it's giving you the control around these automated emails. So you could edit it, you could send it straight away, you could pause it, you could send them all, you could pause them all. So it's just giving you an element of control that you wouldn't otherwise have. Okay, then let's just take this forward a little bit. Let's assume that the client then has sent you the information as requested, but perhaps they've forgot to send you the sales invoices relating to May. Now, I would then be able to update the progress, but only to the next step, which is part record received. If I do that, it will invite me to type in what's missing. So sales invoices for May, for May. That then will send a different email. This email would say, "Dear Alex, thank you for sending us the information. However, we're still waiting for the sales invoices for May." So whatever I typed into that box then goes into that automated email. Okay. And then let's assume a couple of days later, we receive that, and then we'll update it to record received. But as you can see here, there are lots of other steps that we would execute as we actually go through, but we'll stick on this one for now. I think there's another question, so let me just cover this off. Is this being recorded? Yes, it is being recorded, so I'm sure Shane's got a way of getting that to you. Next question, can you add additional client info? Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to understand the question a bit more. If you want more fields in the client folder, different drop downs, etc., the answer to that is yes. And within settings again, you can create fields, for example. So some firms will create like a CRM sales funnel within their client field. It's very simple to be able to do. So yes, you can add in new fields. Not sure if that is actually answering your question or not. So let me just double check. You've bought out 2 practices. Oops, sorry, disappeared. You've bought out 2 practices and merging, but want to know which one is the original. Okay, so yeah, so if I'm understanding that, you might add in an extra field that says, original client, yes or no, perhaps. If that was the case, then yes, you certainly do that. Okay. Right, yeah, I think that's okay for now. So yeah, let's talk about executing the tasks then. So to execute this task, a lot of firms don't record time, so they will just execute the task and complete. But there are a lot of firms that do record time. So I'll show you how you can record time, and I'll show you how you can invoice. Now again, you don't have to use it for time recording, you don't have to use it for invoicing, but I'll show you, and you can use it or not, however you wish. So let's say we're executing this task. to record time, I click on this time clock, and that's it. I am now recording time. So I've got the client here, I've got the work, so it's the VAT submission for 31st of July, the staff member. Now maybe I wanted to change that. Maybe John's actually going to do the work on James's behalf. We've got the date that we started the work, we've got the time that we started the work, and then down here we've got the time clock that's just counting away in 10-second intervals. And the idea is you just go away and do the work in whichever way you would normally do that. When you finish the work, you've still got this tab open, you come into the tab, and then you just press save. And that time now is recorded, okay, only 0.6 of a minute, but that's the time that's recorded against that particular task. Okay, now let's say we've completed it. I mean, I could restart it a couple of days later, say after a query, and then I'd have two lots of time. But in terms of our time today, I'll just keep things short. Now, if I wanted to record or create an invoice directly from here for a fixed fee invoice, I could just create the invoice here. Now, for SHQ, I put £300 in for VAT for the year. So I've got an invoice now ready to go for a quarter of that, i.e. £75. Everything here is ready. All I need to do is save an email. It generates an email to the right person. So, dear Alex, please find attached the invoice. It attaches that invoice as a PDF, and that invoice is gone. Now, I'll just show you the preview of that, just so you see what it would have looked like. You don't have to use this, as I say, but it's there if you want. So this is the invoice. Obviously, you need to change the settings, and within the invoice section, there's a drag and drop to change your logo, to change your payable, to change your backs. So very simple to change the invoice. So that's how we could do that. But as I say, you might not use it at all. We are also looking to integrate with packages in the future. We're working on the Xero integration as we speak. Beyond Xero, we'll next look at QuickBooks. So then if we did sort of create an invoice in here, in theory, we would then also be posting it into a Xero or into a QuickBooks. So that work has started. It's not complete yet, but if you're a client of ours or on our mailing list, you'd be notified as and when that happens. To complete this task, I would then just click complete. I could make some notes in here. I could notify a colleague, and then I could either complete and email the client to confirm that. So we'll complete it. And as we can see now, that has disappeared. That particular task has disappeared. It's already sort of reappeared for the next quarter. So it's actually here again already in terms of the dates on here. So it's back for the next quarter already. But that's really how we can execute tasks. Now, on that time recording, if it was chargeable, the only difference there, I would make it chargeable from here. It's still recording the time, and put in the rate, whatever the hourly rate would be. And again, in this case, I'll just overwrite it. So let's say we did 25 minutes for Calvary here. Save that one. And this time, if I complete 25 minutes, if I complete this from here, so those tasks have now gone. And I haven't yet invoiced that, but that's because it's chargeable work, and I would therefore invoice it through my work in progress. So I'd go to my work in progress. I've got the invoice again ready to generate here. So 25 minutes at £85 an hour, which I could either generate the invoice or I could clear the WIP down if I was just using it for reporting. But hopefully that gives you an idea of how the tasks run. So I'm conscious of time, so I'll keep rattling through. So we'll quickly talk about time recording. So I've got my time log here. So this is the time that we've done. I can see that James has done 0.4 for an hour. John's done, well, 2%. So literally half a minute, wasn't it? So, and we can see who the client was, how much time spent, and so on. That's time log today. I could look at yesterday's time, this week's, last week's, this month's, last month's. I can export it to Excel. So over time, I could do a further manipulation on that. If you're in a firm with quite a number of users, you can have a live team view. So that would give you a log of all of the active time that's been recorded at that moment. There are timesheets available, but that's basically, if like, just a calendar representation of this. And we've also got additional time logs as well. So I can record time against calls that have been logged, so those would appear in the timelines, that type of thing. We'll quickly talk about invoicing. So again, if I looked at my invoicing now, I've got just the one invoice because I didn't actually raise the invoice for the WIP, I don't think. I can use this for invoice management. I can use it for my monthly totals. I can have my debtors. I can generate statements automatically to clients from here and so on. So, and then I've got the invoice settings. That's where I can change the logo and that type of thing. Right, but as time's against us, I'll quickly move on. I'm going to go back into SHQ now, and then I'm going to try and rattle through these as quickly as possible. This is green now, by the way, to say they're registered on the portal. From here, I can send emails directly to the client. So, dear Alex, whatever it would be. Here, I think there was a question about attaching files, so I can attach the files. So that's how I can send an email directly from within the client. Oh, and by the way, that's your signature there, because the signature was another question. I've put my signature up here. Whatever I've put there reflects then in the email. But I can send text messages as well in the same way. So I can just type the text message in. So have a nice day, whatever that would be. Now, again, if that's something I'm going to use a lot, I can actually create that as a text template and select that from the template, so I don't have to type that in. Now, let's go into the timeline now. The timeline is like a full audit of all of the activity of the client. So as an example, that's the text message that's just gone. So that's within the timeline. Now, you can also have, if the client replies to that text message, the reply could be in here as well. The emails that you send out, the emails that you receive, they will be in here because it's a full audit of all of the client activity. But as well as that, you've got everything else. So, when I said we were missing the sales invoices, that's logged in here. Let's just scroll down. We've executed the VAT task. That's logged in here when we've moved over from the 31st of July to the 31st of August. John logged the 1-minute call to do the VAT submission. It's all in the timeline, including if I go to nearer the end, things like he's changed his address, but also then we've got the letter of engagement that's here, which I could download. We've got the IP address, the time, and so on. So it's a legal enforceable document. Okay, so that's the timeline. Invoices, if you use it for invoices, that's where you would find your invoices relating to the client. Next tab is documents. Now, the documents tab is where you'd expect to find the documents that you sent to the client or the client sent to you. That's the document that the client sent to us, and I could just download it from here. Now, if I want to send the client a document, I basically drag and drop that document in. If it's, in this case, that's a PDF. So let's say that we wanted an e-signature on there. I could, request an e-sign or just allow him to view. In this case, we'll say he needs to e-sign it, and then I send that out, and that's now gone. So we can see it's gone, but also it sent an email at the same time. So this email would be going out to him. Dear Alex, we've uploaded a document. Please click on the link. So again, that link would take him into the portal, and then he could just sign that document. Okay, so that's the idea of that. I think questions coming through. Is there a size limit to upload documents? At the moment, there isn't any limits in terms of the size or the number of documents. So yeah, no limits at all at the moment. So back into SHQ, and let me just close that down. So the next tab would be resources. Now, resources is basically just a list of information that you might not have anywhere else. So maybe one example of that is their HMRC codes. So you've got the client's HMRC code. It's all freehand. So, username, and then put in the username, whatever that would be. Now, I can save that, and that will just be visible to everybody. But if it's sensitive information, I might password protect it, and I might actually stop other people viewing it. So then I would save it. And because I've password protected it, it's not visible. If I hadn't password protected it, it would be visible there. But I would now go in, put in a password if I'm allowed to, and then that would allow me to view whatever it is. So that's the idea of the resources. Also bear in mind, you've got resources at the firm level as well. So that allows you to put in your own passwords, your own HMRC codes for you as a firm. And at the moment, we're in the client, so that's the client's resource. The next tab's the automation. The only reason you come into this tab is if you want to change something that we've set as a default for the firm. So you need to tweak it for one client. So just as one example, we talked about the VAT emails. If you didn't want SHQ to receive the VAT emails, I could turn that off here. So every other client of yours gets them except for SHQ. So it's tweaking at a client by client basis. Next tab's the letter of engagement. So that's where we find the client's letter of engagement. Next tab is the risk. So this is where all of the risk information would be that you would fill out. I'm going to talk about automated AML checks as well. We've got the deadlines as another tab here. So these are just one place that you can go quickly to get all of the deadlines. I can email those deadlines as well directly to the client from here. So nice and easy. The next tab is the HMRC code request. Now, this basically saves you going onto the HMRC portal to request the client codes. Assuming you filled everything out, you just submit from here, and that submits directly to HMRC. Okay, again, it's just going to save you a couple of minutes here, a couple of minutes there. Right, 5 minutes left, so let me quickly rattle through. I'm probably going to go over, but I'll try not to go over by too long. The top tabs, we've got things like the overview tab. This pretty much, as it says on the tin, it's an overview of various activities. How much we've invoiced. Now, you might not use this bit, but how many clients we've got, how many emails are in that queue. So we talked about the queue. How many prospects, how many debtors, how many notifications I haven't looked at. Now, I haven't spoken about notifications yet. That's basically here. My bell's been very busy pinging away at me from pretty much the start to inform me of things. Now, I've been ignoring it, but let's just show you what's on there. So it's told me from the very start that, Alex signed his terms and conditions. He signed his letter of engagement. He's, updated his preferred name to Alex. He sent us a document. All of these things we've been notified about. The last one saying a failed email, that's basically because I'm using a demo system, that's all. But so even when, Alex was going through that onboarding, I will have known of it. I would have been busy doing other things, but I would have known about it from these notifications. So I'll just take them out, and then the notification bell stops. So the tasks we've looked at, the other thing I just quickly mentioned, you can create tasks that are not related to a client or a service. They can be internal tasks. So, just an audit task maybe. So let's just literally leave it as an audit task. The deadline is today. That means that it's going to be a red task. So here we go down here. It's a red task, the audit task, and it's not applicable against a client. So you can do that.
Sorry, I wanted to get your attention without being too abrupt, but I did stop you in your tracks there, Alan. I'm just conscious of time. Now, I know you've got more to cover, and I suspect that many of the audience, given that you've retained 100% of the audience throughout this entire thing, are very interested in it. I'm conscious. Could you just give me a bit of a comment in the chat box as to whether you're all right to stay online for a little bit longer? In fact, most of the point, do it the other way around. If you need to leave in the next few minutes, just put a yes in the box just to give us a flavour, because I think it might be a good idea, Alan, for you've got a special offer for this audience, haven't you?
We have.
Yeah, and I wonder if maybe you could just take a little, correct me if you don't want to do this, but if you've got a few minutes maybe just to share that offer now while all the audience is present with us, and then maybe for the ones that can stay behind, you can complete your presentation. Would that make sense?
It would, if I knew what the offer was, I'm afraid, and I don't, so probably not. Well, I mean, obviously we could share that at the end in terms of a follow-up email. Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, okay,
there is an offer that your team have given me that
right, more than
effectively. Yeah, I mean, the offer is that normally you have a monthly subscription for £39 plus VAT. They are offering it to be £29 plus VAT with 5 free AML checks. So
Okay.
It's a 20% discount. I just wanted to put that out there right now. I didn't realise that you
Yeah.
hadn't been apprised of that, so that's fair enough. Ultimately, well, we've put that out there now, so at least those of you who need to drop out will be aware of that, and we can certainly send the details of that in an email, can't we,
Yeah.
following this. All right, so I'll bow back out again now. There are less than a handful that need to leave, so
Okay.
we'll carry on. Thank you.
To give you an expectation, I will be no longer than 10 minutes to finish this through, maybe 5 minutes unless we've got questions. So yeah, I won't keep you much longer. So really, I'm just going through a number of these, and we've been through some of these already. So the task we just talked about in clients, so we've got a number of things here. We've looked at the clients, we've looked at prospects, we've looked at portal registration. There are others, but the one I just wanted to share the AML ID checks with you, just to show you what this looks like. So we can run these checks automatically. We use Verify as the outside agency. Now, as James just said, you get 5 free credits, which is very nice. I'll show you how you buy the credits though. So they are £3.75 each. So I don't even have to do the maths here. There's £18.75 worth of free credits. If though you want to buy in any sort of quantity beyond that going forward, you'll see that price does drop down considerably. So we buy a number of credits just to get us going. And the first time I do this, I just need to register for data protection. So I'll run that again when the system comes back to me. Okay, it's just taking a while. There you go. So back into it. It'll tell me I've got some credit now. So it will allow me to do the test. So I've got 150 credits. And then I either select one of our existing clients, if that was the case, or type in the name of a prospect, their address, and the additional information, you know, NI number, passport number, anything we've got. We run the check. Now, this is a demo system. It's set up to fail. It's failed. I download the failure report, which is here as a PDF, and this is the failure report. So it's from Verify, you know, see it's failed, and then it's why it's failed. So we've got, you know, unable to confirm their residency, unable to match their date of birth on Experian, on Equifax, on LexisNexis, and so on. So that's the report. Okay, so that's the client bit. Invoicing we talked about, time we talked about, resources we talked about. On tools, a couple of more things. There's things like fee projections. So that will just show you what you should generate either from your services, your day-to-day services, those that are on just a pure monthly retainer, those that are on an annual charge, that type of thing. The queue we've looked at, and then I just wanted to just give you an overview of the settings before we finish. So things like my settings. So we talked about the signature. So that's where you would put your signature in there, your best regards, your warm wishes, that type of thing. You can default task allocation. So if you've got a bookkeeper in the firm, yeah, you could default the bookkeeping to John, so he will always be allocated the bookkeeping and so on. The account settings. This is where I could add in extra fields. So we talked about, you know, the merging of two firms. So if I wanted to add in a field saying existing client or not, I could add in that, put that question there, decide which section I want that in, and then make it like a yes or no, a tick box, tick yes or no. So that's exactly how I could do that. So very simple to add in those type of things. Also within account settings, I talked about like the list of services. So here are the default list of services, but if there are more that you want to put in, then you could literally type in that extra one service, and that's, that will now be in our list of services. Let me quickly cover off any more questions. Okay, well, thank you very much. Sorry that I literally couldn't cover off everything in the hour for some people. Okay. I guess there's a question, can you buy individually if you wish? If that's for the AML ID checks, I think you buy in quantities of 5 as a minimum. But yeah, so yeah, 5 rather than individual, I think. I think there's another question coming through. Would you please explain the automation date settings? Yes, I'm literally going to come on to that one, so that's good timing. When you sign out of Accountancy Manager, do you have a log out? Do you have to log out of each tab that has been opened? No. If you sign out, that's fine. You could just literally close any of these down. You're not losing information. And you can actually, if you don't want all of these tabs open, again, that's within settings, so you can start to close those off. Okay, so literally the last couple of things I wanted to show, automation settings, which was just nicely questioned. So the idea of this page is you set up the schedule of those emails. So we've talked about VAT. So at the moment, we've got that set on 1 and 14, and that means day 1 after the deadline, that email goes out, and 14 days after that. So that's the schedule that's set up by default. But again, I can change that to whatever I want that's right for my firm. So I could have 3 emails going out over 15 days. So if I save that, that's the new schedule. And I can obviously do that for all of these different sort of areas. So account record request, self-assessment, confirmation statement, bookkeeping record requests. Here's that extra one, by the way. I've added in that new service. If you just remember, I could now start setting up a schedule for that service. Over here, this is things like the record request days, sorry, the part record days. That was my, please send me the sales invoices for May. That type of thing I'd want to go out pretty regular, as the query emails, as the waiting approval emails. And then we've got things like the payment reminder, so self-assessment payment reminder emails. These are going to go out 28 days before the deadline, then 21 days before the deadline, and so on. Again, I could change that. That might be 40 days, 30 days, 20 days, and so on. So that's the idea of you set up these schedules. And then the last thing is I want to show you are the templates themselves. And just before I do, a couple more questions. How do I get my email into the, how to get my logo into the email? The answer to that is if you email that to us, your logo as a JPEG, we will do that for you. And then the next one is, how is the payroll record request work? Within the payroll, you could set up, we didn't actually look at the payroll, but you set up within there if it's weekly, fortnightly, whatever that would be, and then the schedule would be based around that frequency that you set up. Okay, so the last thing is the templates. So these are those automated emails. Now we saw that very basic one. It was literally dear name. We saw the invoice one. We've seen the document upload one. But if I just scroll down, and obviously you'd go through these at your leisure. We've seen the proposal one. But then there's pretty much one for every occasion. That GDPR one we've seen. We talked about the VAT one. Dear client, your date expired on, pulled in on the 21st of the month. Now to change any of these, you just click on the pencil, and then you go in, and then you make the change. Whatever suits you, you just make that change. That is your new VAT email template if you save it. If you ever wanted to go back to the original, then you just reset it as well. And it's just a cut and paste. If you've got something already in Word, just copy it, paste it, and then that's it. That's your new template. So very easy to change. And carrying on down, payroll record request, P11D. Again, I've got my email here for my new extra service. The part record received one. Now, that's that box that I typed into. So, thank you for sending us the records. However, we're still waiting for, and that pulls in whatever was in that box. And wherever we've got these percentages, again, as I said, that's pulling in from the system. Now, here is where all of these options are. This basically is a list of everything in the client folder. So if I wanted to add in, a field that was secondary last name, I could then just copy and paste that in, and whatever that, the secondary contact's last name would be inserted into that email. So very simple to do. And right down at the bottom, we're into things like the letters of engagement templates, the terms and conditions templates. Exactly the same idea. Click on the template, and then you can alter it. Okay, I'm very conscious of time, so the very last thing I would just point out is those new templates that I've talked about. They're here. So this is where I can add my text message templates, my canned messages. I could have little tick boxes within the tasks. I could have different sorts of VAT chasing emails. I might have one for my standard customers that says, please update information in 21 days. I might create a second one that says, please make sure QuickBooks is updated if I'm already doing their, accounts within QuickBooks. So I can have different sorts of chasing emails sent out to different types of client. So that's really what I'm planning to show within the hour. There is a lot to get through, and so apologies for just going over. A couple more questions. Can you pre-populate engagement letter or proposals be downloaded in Word form? Okay. Yeah, so sorry, I was half reading that. So can those letter of engagements be downloaded in Word format? At the moment, I think they're downloaded as a PDF, but you could rather than into Word. I'm pretty sure that's the case. But I mean, from here, it really depends. If it's one that the client has, you're using for the client, so you mean it's populated in terms of the services, then if I went into the client, I would then download it from here as a PDF, for example. So let me just quickly do that, just to show you that. Oops, let me just get rid of that. I could pick it up from here in the letter of engagement and then download as a PDF, or I could go into the timeline and download it from there. From here, that will just be the PDF ready to go out. If I did it from the timeline, it would also have the signatures on as well. So that is the letter of engagement ready to, so I could print it from here and export it, for example. Okay, let's just see if there's any more on the question side. So when you sign out, so now I've done that one already, so that's fine. Another one in chat. Can you add tasks for the practice to carry out on each client, such as MLR checks? We are enhancing the tasks to enable you to have, if you like, forms for that. But if you want particular tasks that are generated, you have to forgive me, I'm not actually sure what an MLR check is, but if that was, say, a service that you ticked, then you could generate tasks against that particular service. If you just want a series of tick boxes against a task, then within those task templates, I could create a template for MLR checks, which would say be a series of steps that I tick off. Then yes, I can do that as well. Question: how do I get my letter of engagement or letterhead on letter of engagement? Again, within that template. So let me go back to the template section. Just go from here. So into templates. If I go down to letter of engagement, just edit one of those, and here you can edit the terms and letter of engagement. So click on here. I would then put in my logo and so on from here. So hopefully that answers that for you. Now I'm very happy to keep this going and continue to answer questions. I appreciate that some of you may need to go. What I will try and do is summarize all of the questions and get those sent out to you anyways for those that are not still here or need to go. But as I say, I'm very happy to continue to answer these as we go through. Hi.
It's all right. Don't mind me.
Okay.
I'm ready to close.
Okay.
So, yeah, you got a few questions coming in now.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, by the way, the MLR is the money laundering regulations. So I don't know if that rings a bell independently.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I mean, in terms of the AML side, then, so if you wanted to go through and have a series of tick boxes, then that's something that you could create. Obviously, you've then got the risk section itself, which has got all of the AML within there. So that, again, you could say is a series of tasks. So again, just to remind you, let's just go. If I just type in the client here, SHQ. So the risk section here. So we've got all of these in. So I guess by going through each one of these, this is pretty much, I guess, the checklists, confirming identity, verifying email. So you may not need to do that. I guess it just depends what you want to do above and beyond what's already in here. Okay, so I think there was another question. Okay, yeah, I appreciate most people are disappearing now. From our behalf, thank you very much for your time. Hopefully we will see you at the event in a couple of weeks. It'd be great to see you there, and obviously we'll be doing demonstrations on a one-to-one basis. If you do want to follow up to do a one-to-one, we're very happy to do that. If you just visit our website, accountancymanager.co.uk, you can book one-to-one demos directly from there as well. So we're very happy to take the time and run through these again on a one-to-one basis and give you a chance to answer questions as you go. The other question that we've got here, so clearly all of our client details are held on the web servers. What level of security and certification and backups are there? That's probably one that's better to answer in a more full email to you. Just so you're aware, the service farm that hosts this is in Germany. The reason we picked that is because of its security and resilience. So we hand-picked might be a bit blasé, but it has been picked specifically because of that. But in terms of the servers, they're mirrored servers, they're backed up multiple times a day. But yeah, we can get you a more sort of precise answer for that.
I think if I can just chip in now, I think we probably ought to wrap up.
Sure.
With some clarity. There have been a few more questions come in, but I think out of fairness, we'll take all of those questions and, well, certainly the ones that weren't answered at least, and give them to you, Alan, if that's okay for you, maybe just to draft a bit of an attachment in an email that goes out following the email, if that's okay.
Very happy to. Very happy to.
Fantastic. Those of you remain, we've still got 54 left. Just a quick question from me. I mean, personally, I thought that was fantastic. It looks a great piece of software. I thought your demonstration of it was really detailed and thorough as well. So thank you for that, Alan.
Pleasure.
Our audience, our remaining audience's point of view, just 3 words or less. What impact would you say having a piece of software like this in your practice would have on you and the practice itself? Just 3 words or less. Just put something in a box. Give us a flavour for what kind of value you've just taken from this and how you perceive the value of the software. Okay, so some great comments coming in there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think those comments are really echoed in what we're trying to do with the tool. It's basically trying to make your life as easy as possible to give you more time to spend fee earning rather than the administration burden.
Brilliant.
That's the whole emphasis of the tool.
Okay, so well, the words there that are coming through speak for itself, don't they? They speak volumes about the software and your demonstration. So, yep, thank you, everybody. We will end this presentation right now. As I say, look out for some emails then coming out of this. Just one final thing. If you are happy for Alan and his team to contact you directly, and if you're eager for somebody to get in touch with you, just type something like email me in the box right now. That way, from a GDPR point of view, we've got your consent for Accountancy Manager to contact you, and then they can strike up a separate conversation with you. So, okay, I'm having a few of those. So, yeah, by all means, we will make that happen.
Great. Can I just point out, it's very nice to hear, I mean, Tom there is saying that he's using the software and it's fantastic. So thank you very much for Tom. I don't think that's me trying to pretend to be Tom. I'm sure Tom's absolutely genuine. And it's always nice. And I think that's how it's been successful. We get lots and lots of recommendations, but accountants talk to accountants, and that's the best sales message really, is when people tell you they're using it and it's doing exactly what they want. And that's a lovely comment, so thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, so lots of emails. So I'll just give you another minute or so just to confirm if you want to be emailed. And then Harsh, I see that you've put that in the Q&A box. So just do me a favour, just so that we don't lose that, just type it into the chat box. And thank you, everybody, and thank you very much, Alan. Very much appreciated.
Yeah.